Alrighty, and we are live. Been a long time. I probably owe some videos. I know we have a backlog and so on and so forth. But anyway, here we are. I'm pretty sure that right now no one's here, but this is what we do. We just roll with it. So, the Ugliest Beauty Contest is the title of this live stream. This is me, your boy BaconMemes, bringing you, well, not physically bringing you, good old John Maynard Keynes. Uh, People know John Maynard Keynes. A lot of people don't like him because of his views on economics. But that is neither here nor there because I am here to talk about the Keynesian Beauty Contest. The heck is the Keynesian Beauty Contest? Well, conceptually, the the underlying phenomena or the concept would be uh, sometimes in life it's not about what you yourself think or even what's necessarily the truth or what's real. Maybe it's about the perception of people around you. So in the case of market participants, that may be that you don't care so much about your own thoughts or what is necessarily the fundamentals or the underlying details of things, but rather what everybody else thinks and feels. So, the concept of the Keynesian Beauty Contest is suppose we have 100 photos of people, or just 100 people, and the objective is pick the six most pretty people or beautiful or whatever word. Um, you would, the quote, the concept of this is the naive strategy is just, you would look, you would see, you'd be like, all right, I picked my six. Maybe it could be random, maybe it could be whatever methodology. Uh, some might say there's layers and levels of thinking. Some people would say, oh, well, naturally you would think about other people's thoughts. Maybe you would think, okay, well, I'm not judging the contestants or the photos or whomever or whatever. You're judging the judges. Um, but at the same time, though, maybe you're thinking, oh, well, the judges know that we're judging them, so maybe the judges do some more stuff. It's a whole rigmarole all the way down. So not like maybe a little bit too silly because again, like things like prettiest or most handsome or whatever, uh, they can be a little soft and squishy as far as them being concepts and not really easy to quantify. So here is another more fun example, which was inspired off the Keynesian Beauty Contest, and that would be guess 2/3 of the average. So it was back in 1981 where someone said, "Hey, pick a number between so on and so forth," and you would want to get the 2/3 of the average. So I will simplify this a little bit, and we can run through some things. And oh, why, hello, Fuhat. I hope you enjoy, and other people watching in the future enjoy the impromptu content, if we can call it that. All right, so it wouldn't be a negative 2A 1G segment without a cringeworthy Google Sheets thing, even though I have Excel, but screw it. Uh, so for this method, we'll say still guess the 2/3 of the average, and we'll set the numbers of anywhere between and including 0 and 100. Suppose we have person one, two, and three. They select 20, 30, 40 respectively. In this case, what would the average be? Very simple Excel function or Google Sheets function. Take the average of these cells, bada boom, bada bing, get 30. Uh, but that's not the final step. We want 2/3 of the average, so bada boop, bada beep. You know, very, very simple formulas. Um, so, you know, going back to the whole Keynesian beauty contest idea of well, what would the naive strategy be? Maybe you would suppose every single person voted their favorite number, voted at random, whatever it may be. Maybe that number would be 50. So some people, again, some people might say, "Oh, this is the zeroth level or the most naive strategy of, well, we pick 50 because that's the average." Some people stop and maybe they don't hear or read. It's two-thirds of the average. They just hear average and go bada boop. Uh, but there also would be limits, because supposing every single contestant selected 100 for whatever reason, the average of 100, you would think would be one thing or the other, but two-thirds, 66, well, 66 and two-thirds. Uh, that would be the ceiling, so to speak. Um, that being said, though, I just decided to go with a silly example of a little bit more refined here. Uh, Two divided by three here. Simple. Well, let's just suppose we'll go with 50 being the average. For whatever reason, naive people or the naive level of thinking, level zero of thinking, is just we only heard average 50. Well, if people were to think a little bit beyond that, well, two-thirds of the average, 33. Again, maybe level one should be level zero. I'll leave that for you to decide. But the point is as we go down, eventually, no duh, the number shrinks because you would, in the case of the Keynesian beauty contest, or in the case of this game of guess two-thirds the average, you'd be looking at all the judges around you and you'd be thinking, okay, this is what they're thinking, do. Oh wait, this is what they're thinking, do. You'd keep going down, so you get 33 and one third, roughly 22, just under 15, just under 10, and so on and so forth. Keeps going down and down and down until you would get what's called a Nash equilibrium, concept in both economics and game theory, where the number should be either zero, one, somewhere in between. What the argument should be, I'll leave that to you. And right now I'm tabbed away from the StreamYard. Uh, I am no goat. I am just a guy. But appreciate that, Fuhat. So again, if we're judging, if in this framework, in this context, we're judging the judges, you would think that would be the number. But if a person were to run the exact same experiment, you might find very, very different answers, and that is interesting. I have and linked in the description below a video about this very topic, about the very concept. And as you can see with the video parameters, they've annotated an experiment where there's a distribution of guesses. So a couple people, maybe they think, hey, I'm going to be silly, or this is my favorite number, I'm picking it. So we see large spikes in the number of 33, which would indicate, depending on how you want to argue things, either first level, maybe at zero level. We'll leave that up for you to decide what number it is. 22. Hey, look at that. But like we see clusters here, and I think that's interesting because based off of true logic and rationality, we would consider. Hopefully, that showed. I Okay, yeah, it showed. Uh, Based off of like true rationality, and a lot of economics tends to be around this concept of everyone's a rational actor. Uh, and we can see that that isn't always the case when we do silly little experiments like this. And what the video would call for, and I think what's plenty fair, is there's bounded rationality. Like we as people, we only have but so much time and effort. We only have but so many resources, and like rationality and logic aren't always the same thing. uh, and what I mean is that like you, even with you being the viewer of this video, if you decide to run this experiment yourself or set up a silly contest where the winning guest gets $20, that you would think, oh well, I'll guess zero or one or somewhere in between, whatever the parameters are, and you would work with that and you'd think you'd win. But experimentation would show that that's not necessarily always the case. And I think it's important to respect this and consider that. And I guess to neatly summarize all this is this stuff is hard. Markets are hard. Analyzing companies are hard. Investing can be hard. And what I mean by that is, supposing you go with a quote unquote naive strategy for the Keynesian beauty contest. Maybe you really like fundamentals, maybe you really like momentum, and you have, your technical analysis system set up perfectly, or in your view, perfectly. And, you choose an asset class where that model does not work. Uh, maybe you are really good at fundamental analysis for an industry that faces some serious macro headwinds. There's it's a complicated world out there that people are they try to be as forward looking as possible, and at the same time the past and the truth does matter. So, like, old dead example that probably is somewhat resolved is, a while back at the time of this recording, AT&T, very old company, had was found to have lead pipes, and that's an expense that they will have to bear. Uh, Stonk price got hit. You know, here's another good one. Earnings season. Earnings season, as at the time of recording, seems to be at a relative lull. A lot of important companies have reported. They'll eventually report again because quarterly reports here in America. Uh, so, ask yourself, the whole priced in thing. What's priced in, uh, and things can get very, very unclear because if you just spend some time just sitting on the sidelines looking at companies where you think to yourself, wow, you know negative net income, negative cash flows, ew, this is ugly, ew, and a company still reports losses, but they didn't lose as much money as anticipated. The stock price can still go up. Uh, Stock price can go up based off of other details like management explaining themselves or explaining guidance. Any number of things could happen. So it's what I'm getting at is stuff is hard. And maybe the Keynesian beauty contest applies more towards sentiment trades. That's possible. The other thing also is the rise of index funds and passive investing. Some people would say, and people that I respect, they would say, respect the flows, respect the flows. S&P 500 inclusion, very big deal. At the same time, though, there are some companies where, and you know, recently enough, some of the indexes have reshuffled things. Like at the time of recording, Palantir recently just got included in the S&P 500. Uh, and congratulations to the people that have weathered that storm, have made some money. At the same time, though, not every company that gets included in the S&P 500 has the same total return profile leading up to that point. And I, would caution people in playing around too much with the Keynesian beauty contest. Um, I guess what makes sense though is uh, you can't be too much of an armchair rationalist and think, oh, I am infinite level thinker. I am the deepest thinker. I am the greatest thinker. Or I have a resource of great thinkers and will just automatically win because, stuff is hard. Uh, there's like an expression amongst entrepreneurial circles where great engineer teams or engineer led teams sometimes don't always do well because things are over engineered where they ignore things like cost, or sometimes the engineered product or service uh, just doesn't have a need or doesn't fit or fulfill any sort of like uh, want or like reduce any pain that any market participants want. Um, and again, we're talking about people far smarter than the one yours truly right here. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to get at was, stuff's hard, and Keynesian beauty contest is one of those fun fun concepts that I just wanted to bring to you. Hopefully, you found that somewhat useful, and thank you. Um, that's a reference for people that don't know. Uh, and yes, just wanted to say sorry for the spotty uploads. Uh, I make no promises. This is just a side project for Andrew and myself. But as always, please do consider liking, commenting, subscribing, etc. Um, hope you found this one somewhat useful. It's it's weird. Life is weird. Just things can run for legitimately good reasons. Things can run for legitimately good reasons plus an extra layer of excitement and hype. Other times the truth can and will come out, and eventually a reckoning occurs, or maybe the truth is that stuff was good and fine all along. Who knows? I went with the silly thumbnail just because there's legitimate macro concerns at this point in time. You have things like the yield curve starting to show signs of uninversion. Maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a serious sign of things to come. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I'm just a guy. I'd say, you predict, sure, if you really want to, but do you want to be right or do you want to make money? Predict or prepare. Maybe you can do both. Maybe you get it right and do make money. Maybe you get it wrong and screw up your money. Hopefully, you just don't lose too much, is all I'm getting at. So, with that said, thank you all for sticking around. Hope you all have a good one, and I will see you all around.